What's up guys, my name is ESO and welcome back with two new leaks on Bethesda's RPG Starfield. Now, are these leaks legit or not? Well, in my opinion they are very convincing and I'll be telling you why I think that in this video. Let's start off with this leak number 1. This was posted on a website called Reset Era, and in order to sign up to this website you need to have a paid email domain. And the moderators here do a pretty good job of checking people's sources. In fact, if you post things that are not backed up by the source or facts, you'll get banned. The post on this website is about Bethesda's new title Starfield actually being a mobile game, and the information they presented here was pretty convincing. But what was more interesting is the user Patron, who replied to this post saying, "No, it's not. And it's coming this fall, so just wait for E3. I mean, that's pretty good advice for all of us. We should probably all just shut up and wait for E3. Obviously though, he was then questioned on this. Many people asked him if he had a source to back up his very bold claim. In response, he said, "I don't know how confirming stuff works here. I can do that if a mod asked me in private message." And indeed, a moderator did ask him in private message, and then posted this. At this time, administrators cannot verify the content of the quoted post made by Patron in this thread is accurate. However, the user has shared information with us that suggests they could be in a position to know the information they claim in the post. As always, Reset Era members take full responsibility for what they post. So considering Patron was not actually banned, and was able to back up his claim to the moderator, we can only imagine that his source was very convincing or even true. Here is some proof that I am the King of England. But in all seriousness, I personally think that Bethesda will announce Starfield at E3. I've been saying it for almost 7 months now, and then marketing wise it obviously makes sense that they'll release Starfield in full around November time. And it really wouldn't surprise me if they released a Starfield mobile game at E3 for us all to download and play as soon as the game is announced. Exactly like they did for Fallout 4, and that worked really well. Anyway, on to our second leak, which comes from a Reddit user called Unknown Regions. Let me break up this thread so we can just talk about the interesting bits. The post starts off by saying, "This is going to come across as a 'my dad works for Bethesda' post. But I won't name my source, and you'll see a lot of this is true in May. May is E3 if you guys didn't know, and the user claims that heads at Bethesda have been noticing a rise in science fiction influenced content in the market, so they're going to make a game of their own in this genre. They've always wanted to do this anyway, even Todd Howard has. They want to get ahead of games like Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen and Beyond Good and Evil 2. They want to bundle a lot of their previous sci-fi ideas into the game. Obviously this game is called Starfield, and there's not really any new information here. It all makes sense. It's something that anybody with a brain could figure out. If you look back on Bethesda's history, they have actually worked on sci-fi themed games before, but they've all been cancelled. But then the Reddit user says this: "You can make your own character. The game looks a lot like Fallout 4, but the animations are as janky. You can climb around on buildings and terrains from a skill even." And Todd Howard actually said in a recent interview that they are currently finishing a new animation system for one of their projects. But he also said that was for a project in pre-production, and that they'd be using the old animation system on the current project. The Reddit user goes on to say that the combat system is similar to Fallout 4 but with better cover mechanics. So what we can probably expect to see is a similar animation system to Fallout 4 but a more polished version that allows you to take cover. But here's where a lot of people seem to get a little bit worried. Because according to the Reddit poster, the game will use cutting edge procedural generation technology. A lot of game mechanics rely on it. There are 4 important planets in the game you can travel between in a system. 3 of them have procedural generated terrain and are fully sized. The other one is a big city planet and has a set map size, maybe around the size of Morrowind's map. On the galaxy map, there is a section of the map called the Unknown Regions, where there are endless planets that are generated you can explore. They are fully sized. The planets themselves have been described as planet-sized dungeons. Content on the planet is procedurally generated as well, like the alien species, animals, locations, all of it is generated. You can find things as small as a camp to something the size of a colony or city on the planet's surface. City as in like Skyrim size. Now people always get worried when they hear the phrase procedurally generated, and we saw that with No Man's Sky. Yes, it gives the game an infinite amount of content, but it can result in some very, very boring, uninteresting planets and landscapes which just feel empty and lifeless. Like for example in No Man's Sky, we ended up with an infinite amount of nothing to explore. There just wasn't really any reason to explore and there wasn't really any gameplay there. But Bethesda have actually been using procedural generation for a long time now, which gives me a bit more confidence. They employed it to start off creating the landscapes in Oblivion. After that they went in though and did handcrafted parts so you can come across some more interesting features or treasure as you explore. Even in dungeons in Oblivion, they were made up of kind of like Lego bricks, like parts of the dungeons and corridors that all fit together and then are filled with items or foes that made sense to the quest. If you actually look back at Daggerfall, the whole game was procedurally generated, which resulted in it actually being about 60,000 square miles big. That's 98% bigger than Skyrim. In fact, it's about as big as England. And Skyrim was made 15 years later. That's really interesting. I think the idea of having an unknown area of space with generated planets in concept sounds really cool, but as we saw with No Man's Sky, it can be done very badly. But imagine if it was done well, you could just have an unlimited amount of adventures and things to explore. But as far as procedural generation goes, I think Minecraft is a game that does this really, really well. And I know that Todd Howard is a fan of that game. So it makes me very interested as to what we might see from Bethesda in this regard. So I think procedural generation can be a very good thing if done well. And with a touch of handcrafted attention that makes the world interesting to explore. And this is something I think Bethesda are amazing at, so I'm not really too worried in that sense. Apparently our character is also silent, and your character is not anyone special. Now this is obviously very typical of any other Bethesda game, and it's something we know and love because we can roleplay our own character and tell our own story. However, it also says that you'll choose a planet you want to start the game on. You can also choose a random planet which will spawn you on a generated planet in the unknown. So you could just start the game anywhere, which is really unusual for a Bethesda game because Bethesda usually like to start you off in a tutorial where you emerge out of a prison in the Elder Scrolls or you come out of a vault in the Fallout series before they have that big reveal and release you into the open world. So I'm interested to see how that mechanic would even work from a Bethesda game, but that is very different to what they usually do. There are a lot of ships to buy, probably around 30. They can be from the size of an X-Wing to an Imperial light cruiser. You can have a small crew, though I don't know the mechanics for this. This actually sounds really interesting. The fact that you can actually get vehicles in a Bethesda RPG is a pretty cool idea. Not to mention, you'll have a crew. I have no idea if they'll have any functionality. I guess we'll wait and find out if that's even true or not. Also, they mentioned there are infinite weapons comparable to the Borderlands systems for guns. There are melee weapons too. I reckon this is going to be an expansion on the Fallout 4 legendary weapon system where there aren't actually any unique weapons per se, but all the weapons are random and you just basically try and find the right trait on the best weapon. The only sad thing about this is that this would mean there are no actual unique weapons and an actual unique appearance to them, which is one of my favourite things about Bethesda games, having these completely unique weapons with interesting missions or quests to go with them. Apparently there are also factions, but even they can be procedurally generated because of the unknown region mechanic and what you find in that area. You may also make your own faction. Apparently you can't just join every faction, but you can be in multiple at once. This whole idea just seems extremely wacky to me. I don't know what any of the factions or enemies or whatever are going to look like, and I'm not so sure if someone making a procedurally generated game would have any idea either. I don't know how legit this Reddit source is. There are some things here that I think lead to interesting speculation, but other things where I'm just like, this is ridiculous. And also considering he starts off the post by saying, you'll see a lot of this is true in May. So even he isn't sure if this is true or not. So I'm really not 100% sure on this second leak, but I think it leads to some interesting discussions about the game. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you guys want to keep up to date with the latest news on Starfield, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel and also press that little bell icon as well, and then YouTube will notify you when that next video comes out. But thank you very much for watching, guys. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.